The deteriorating military situation was too much for Washington. They feared Americans might become trapped in the city. Martin was ordered to begin evacuating Americans and their dependents. Desperate Vietnamese looked for any connection to the Americans to get out. All over the city, quick marriages were arranged.
I remember it very vividly because you had to get married at a police station, and the police stations at the time had concertina wire and sandbags and machine gun nests on the top of them. So you went over there with an American and a Vietnamese witness. You would sign the paperwork. You would pay the person extra money so that they would rush the paperwork through. And we got married.
With an airlift now on, the processing center at the airport became inundated with Vietnamese hoping to get out.
Started off with just dozens, and then became hundreds, and then became thousands of people that were queuing, you know, to get screened, to get interviewed.
It was panicky. The people were apprehensive. The Vietnamese, when we were there, they didn't like to wait in lines very much. So they would push and prod, try to get ahead of the line. When they opened that up, I took my girlfriend and my 3-year-old stepdaughter over there. And it was still a long, drawn-out thing. It was an all-day event.
Patraz was luckier than some. He was spotted by a fellow Marine working at the center.
He came up to me and he said, "Sergeant Potratz, there are some no-shows on some of these flights. If you want, I'll see if I could put her on some of these flights." He came up to me and he said, "Okay, she's on the next flight out." He picked up her suitcase, put my little 3-year-old stepdaughter on his back, and he rushed up to the plane and put him on the plane and got him out of there. And he was my hero that day. I'll never forget that.
The process was a little more complicated for those Vietnamese not married to an American.
Each of us had to fill out the application, and the people who have seniority would leave first. I was told that when the time to come, they would come and collect me. Make sure I leave the address and have someone at the time, all the time, so they would come and collect me.
I mean, I actually had a family come in one time. I remember, I think they were Chinese, Vietnamese. There must have been 75, 100 people in this one family. But in the Asian and Vietnamese family context, you know, they didn't make these fine distinctions we made between immediate family and a family. You know, the extended family was all family. There was no such thing as family, non-family, you know, your immediate family and then your distant family. And I mean, this is a Western concept.
I was told I could leave if I would take only 2 younger sister and brother, but I have my family who could just leave your parents, especially in Vietnam, and I was single, so I lived with my parents all my life. I couldn't think of the thought that I would take my 2 youngers and get on the plane and leave Vietnam, not knowing what would happen to my parents, and how could I? So I decided to stay so that I could take all of my family, so they kicked me further down on the list.
Over the next week, thousands of people were flown out of Saigon.
The number of sorties from Saigon to Clark Air Base has soared to 100 a day. It's a 5-hour round trip with the airlift suspended each night. The majority of the evacuees are Americans and their families and dependents. In less than a week, the number of Americans in Vietnam has dropped by more than half to below 3,000.
Nothing is more devastating than you come into work and you know that your boss left and not even a word to say goodbye to you, to tell you I was leaving. And you felt betrayed. You felt betrayed and you resent that kind of treatment. And then two of my co-workers who were there longer than I am just disappear. And you come in and the desk just empty and you have to support consulting them on some of the paperwork, and they disappear, and they left already. They left last night, and not even a word to say goodbye.
Well, the last few weeks of April, when we find out that the American and all the people that work for them leaving, that make us very resentful and hate them, because we always thought that they're going to fight with us to the very end. And you know, for a lot of us, we do believe them. You know, I mean, why not? At that time, we believe America is the most powerful country in the world. And, you know, they can send people to the moon, you know, why not, you know, beat the communists, and or at least, you know, guarantee that they're not, you know, invading us. And yeah, so there's a sense of very strong sense of resentment towards the Americans. But under all of this, it's a sense of like, okay, I wish we could go to America, you know. And so it's a very strange feeling for us, because we hate them, but yet we want to be like them.
President Thieu appeared on television to address his people. Ambassador Martin had convinced himself that the communists might negotiate if Thieu stepped down. So Martin told him he had to go. Within days of his resignation speech, Thieu had left the country.
Denny's works for me because even my teenage boys get filled up.
Surrounded. The North Vietnamese were waiting on the edge of the city for fresh supplies for the final assault. Saigon was theirs for the taking.
I was 5 and he was 6. We rode on horses made of sticks. I wore black and he wore white. He will always win the fight. Bang, bang. He shut me down. Bang, bang. I hit the ground. Bang, bang.
At night, the evacuation of Americans and some Vietnamese continued.
My lady shut me down.
At night, that's where the worst part. At night, because I live right near the airport. So I could hear the truck or the bus transporting people who was about to evacuate from Saigon, because they would not move those people during the day, fearing that they would cause chaos in the city. And I could hear the plane taking off, and deep down inside me, it was, just so, the despair was so great that I cried at night. I cry a lot at night.
Some who had more intimate connections to the Americans also made it to the airport.
I remember one night we went to one of the bars in Saigon, and we loaded up about 10 or 20 young ladies there. And we had vehicles that had light bars and sirens. And we had what we called a war wagon. And we drove up in the dead of the curfew in Tudo Street, opened up the doors, put the girls in, ran lights and sirens, and went right through the gates at Tan Son Nhut, and nobody stopped us.
Some night we don't have electricity, right? So we just have those oil lamp, and I remember the food making scarce, so we only eat rice mixing with a lot of different kind of grain, and we eat fried peanut. We have peanut and a lot of fried pumpkin. Because pumpkin lasts for a long time, right? The whole family huddle around, and they had this little oil lamp. It's all dark, and we eat our dinner, and we talk, and we get scared. We pray. But at that time, I guess the whole South Vietnam assumed that they all get killed. The sense of fear is overwhelming everywhere. We talk about, who get to go, who get to stay. So, yeah, for me, I'm thinking about, go to America many times. I wish I can go. For me, at that time, I guess this is the safest place on earth that you can go to. Not only that, it's a place that you can do whatever you want to do. Just the picture, the image of America is like heaven. Yeah.
We still hope that the international community would not drop us. Millions of people who did not like communists. We still believe that there would be some kind of thing work out, so that maybe there was a part of South Vietnam, maybe 1/3 of it, or maybe just Saigon, that there's a place for us. That's what we were hoping. A place for us to live.